Hello and welcome to Colin Bradley Artcast. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
How you doing, Dad?
I'm all right. How are you? Because I think it's imminent now, isn't it? Your birth of your new baby.
Yeah. I wasn't sure. We weren't sure if you'd be here this week. We're actually due in a few days, so it's not quite yet. But we weren't sure if he was going to be early or not. But he is currently not here at the time of recording this podcast on Friday. So yes, I would say probably next week. Hopefully next week we will be we'll be taking a little break from doing this podcast. But yeah, you just never know. He'll come when he's ready.
That's right. Oh, yeah, yeah. That's the wonderful thing about babies. They know, you don't. They do,
Yeah,
and they come when they're ready. And I think that's exactly what happens in nature. When we're ready, we'll come.
yeah,
Anyway, that's lovely, lovely,
yeah.
lovely.
Well,
Warmth.
we're ready. We're ready. We've got everything ready. So there's no delays on our point. Whenever you want, mate, you come on down.
Lovely.
But yeah, otherwise good. Um, Last week we finished off your Robin picture, I believe. We were talking about that,
Hmm.
and you mentioned that you hadn't got a project sorted
No,
for
I
this week.
hadn't.
So
No,
how has your week been selecting a project?
well, I've got quite a few under my belt, really, or tucked away on my computer, thinking, shall I do that? Shall I do that? And this particular one came in fairly recently. I found it on Pixabay. I thought, wow, now that is something else. So that's the one I've decided to do. It's gone to the front of the queue. And it's a picture which we're going to do in stages. The reason being is what I want to do is you'll see when I show you the pictures, or you show the pictures today. I'm going to explain in more detail the difficulties that you will come across. I would say that you could say, well, do you face the same difficulties? Not really, because I can get over things. I know how to get over things now. Uh, Lots and lots of experience, but students won't. They won't be in that position. They'll find, how on earth do you do that? How do you get over this? And so on. So the idea of this is really to go through pictures like this. I mean, we've got enough pictures, Steve, on the site for people to find, and we're doing those new projects we're doing for the beginner. So this is kind of advanced pictures, but I think people will give them a go, and all the help I can give them, so much the better.
Excellent stuff. Well, this is acting like a kind of breaking it down as you're doing it, which is quite
Mm,
a unique
mm,
um, perspective we get. So you sent me a picture of the first stage, and it's going to show the picture up on screen now for everyone to see. If you're listening on a podcast app, then you can look at the podcast artwork. Should hopefully be showing up on your phone or computer where you can actually see these pictures on your screen.
mm.
This is, you can see the reference picture in this one, and then you've made a start on it here, and this is uh, action shot. I don't think I've seen you do anything quite like this before, where it's an animal in motion.
Well, it's a compliment really to the photographer who managed to get that. He's probably got one of these cameras go click 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 click, and then that was the one that came up, and I thought that is superb because it. You can imagine when I'm sure when our viewers are looking at that thing, how on earth do you produce that action and make it look real? Because that's what you've got to do. Um, so anyway, what I've done there is I've decided to do it on the dark grey pastel matte paper, and you can see that that does work really well for this. I did think, well, shall I put it on the light grey pastel matte paper? But what convinced me really was the action. I felt that background colour, although I'm going to colour it blue and green and all the other colours, it will give us a kind of three-dimensional look. If you look at or you look back on the shadow pictures I did, you get that kind of thing there. You get that kind of three-dimensional look, even though it's not. And I thought, well, maybe I can do that with this one. So that's the reason I chose the dark grey pastel mat for it. But it does present more complications, really, as you're going to see in another clip we're going to give you in a minute. But talking about this, now, one of the things that is probably people will find quite hard to do is the contrast between the lighting on the head. You've got the light area on the top and the right side of the head, and then on the left you've got that shadow. Now that's not easy to attain, and one of the things I did there was I put white obviously on the top of the head, and no eyes, no nose at this stage, and then I used the 230, which is the light grey, bluey grey pencil, 230. I'm sure your people will recognise that. And that goes on the other side. Are you with me? So we've got one side with white and the other side with the 230. Oh, hang on, you've got white on there. Now that white is put on afterwards. That's on top of the 230. You see what I mean? And what it gives you then is the immediate shadowing effect. And obviously from there, you work on the 233, which goes on, and just a tiny bit of the 181, which is a very dark colour. You can't imagine putting that on that light colour, can you? But it works. What happened was, if you look at the hair, I haven't finished that yet, but the reason I put it in were two reasons, really. One, to give me the background for the profile of the head where the white touches that on the right-hand side. You see what I mean? I needed that to give me that contrast. I needed to have that facility, really, while you're doing something like this. And the same thing applies actually to the sky. I put the sky in for that same reason. And if you look at the top of the head, it really does stand away against those two contrasting colours. Got me? Now, and the hair is nowhere near finished, but I put it in. And the other reason I did that, and this is quite clever, I think, it's something that I practiced and have done quite a few times now, and I've shown it on video. You may not have seen too many because these are in the later videos that are going to come. I put the grey, that's the 233 on to start with, and then the 181 on top of that. There was touches of 230 in there as well, as you can probably see, with the lighter areas. Now, the reason I did that is I wanted a palette. What do you mean by that? A palette so that I could dip into those colours and then apply them on the head, on the face, on the white fur. Are you with me?
Wow, that's so interesting.
You do it, of course, with the colour shaper.
Yeah.
And that's
So
the
you're
reason.
painting it, aren't you? You're painting.
Exactly what you're doing. Exactly what you're doing. And I do mention this on the video, that this really, folks, is painting with the pastel pencil. Although you're not using a pencil, you're using the colour shaper. I've done it quite a few times now, and it's working really well. But you'll see how the subtlety then, because you can imagine if you were to put that 181, which is a very dark colour, it's almost black.
Yeah.
Put it onto the white, that would frighten people to death. Well, it would
Can't
frighten me.
control it, can you? You're really controlling the hand pressure. It's hard.
And what you can do too, once you run out, you can put more on. You can put more of that on the hair, so that you've got more, and you can keep doing that until you get just the right. And I've got just about the right. If you look at the reference picture and you look at that picture, you'll see that my picture's slightly changed. I haven't made it quite as dark as it
Yeah.
is on the reference picture deliberately because I want it to be brighter. But and you don't know whether you can see it. Can you close up on the my picture to bring the head in? That's it. That's probably about right, Steve. Fine. Can you see the shading on the light area between the eyes? And there we are. No, the other side. That's it. On that side there, that shading. Now that again, that's put on with the paintbrush, or sorry, the color shaper.
Paintbrush. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
and that
Subtle.
has
Really subtle.
very much so, and this is like my experimental bit, really. I like to do an experimental bit. Well, that's really it. And I thought, okay, I've got a lot of fur or hair on the dog, and a lot of colour. So I've got to get the system right. Once I've got
Yeah.
that right, then we can, I've got the rest of the fur. I've got the whole dog really to do. But
Yeah.
you see
Yeah.
what I mean? There's an awful lot of it, as you can see. And the other thing that I've got on that, you don't see it on the light area of the face, but on the left-hand side, between the white and the dark hair, there's two, at least two other colours. One is 182 and one is 187. Now, 187, you can't see that at all. There's no way you can look at that and say you've got 187 on there. But there is a little bit because it gave, especially, I'll tell you where the area that I particularly liked is to the left side of the left eye. Okay, the eye that's in the shadow,
Yeah.
you've got the left side. Can you see that sort of ochre touch there?
Let's zoom in on it.
Yes. There you go. Now that gives you a good indication now. Can you see that?
Is it here?
It's there and more around the, yes, it's there, definitely, but it's on the eye, you can see it. Very subtle. You imagine you've got two colours added to that. You've got the 182 and the 187. Hard to believe, but that's the only way I could get that tone in. Now, the reason I did that is the stick he's got in his mouth.
Oh.
That is reflected into the animal. The
God,
light,
that's technical, isn't it?
oh yes, the light is hitting the stick and it's reflected back into the face.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. That is very technical. That's a really good tip, though, for people to think about when you're doing these kinds of things.
Well, when you look at it, you see, as a picture, if you didn't know what I knew, you think, how can you get that colouring on the white? Well, where does that come from? Because there's more of it, of course. If you look at I haven't done this yet, but you look at the body, that's reflecting the same thing, and that's reflecting from the grass up into the body.
Yeah.
I
Oh.
probably won't put green in. It will be the at the moment anyway. But it may be that I will do that. I don't know. But these are all these little things, tiny little things you probably wouldn't look at and see. But you can
Very interesting.
see what's attracting me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. That is really fascinating. Never considered that before. There was another picture that you sent me just
Yes,
today,
that's right.
right before we recorded. So I'm going to show that because you've done a little bit more of the picture, just a teeny bit more. It looks like you're working on the sky here.
That's right. Now, the reason I did this one is the difficulty of working on the dark grey pastel map. For first of all, if you look at the area below, you can see that's the colour you're going to have to work on. You're going to have to make it look nice and bright. Now, the way to do that is to start off with the right colour. And the right colour isn't white, it's 230. So I use 230 to start with. That's the colour that you see to the right side of the pencil before you hit the blue on the top of. But that blue is there. That's the colour that is going to be. Now, when you look at that, you think, how's that going to work out? It's a completely different colour, that blue on the left. That's 149, incidentally, to the colour on the right. Now, the other thing is it's hard to get that looking like it does on the air, little bit of sky that you see being done there. And what you have to do is the action of the pencil. Now, you see, it's like a wiggle, like that. You can see those squiggles, can't you?
Yeah.
Now, you'd be tempted, really, I think, wouldn't you, to do that, fill the sky in like that. But if you did that, first of all, you would tend to mark the paper. Even though you've got the 230 on there, you tend to mark the paper, and it would be very hard to get those lines off. What I've done there is a light squiggle, but I go back over it again. You can see, actually, you can probably just see that on the left-hand side of that, if you halve that blue sky that I've done, on that half of it, I've gone back over, filling those little, I'd say holes, they're not holes, paper that hasn't had quite as much on it. Now, the temptation here is to press hard to make that work. That's not going to work if you do that, because you're going to have the same problem. You're going to make marks on there, which is going to be very hard to get rid of. Look at the smoothness of that area on the right. You've only got a little tiny bit. I should have given you a bit more of that, but that will serve. See how smooth it is. You can't see any marks, can you? And now, that's only the first stage that I'm showing you now. Now, what I'm going to be doing next week, you'll have that whole bit of sky done. When you do the little squiggles, use your finger. Now, don't use a color shaper for this, because you're not going to be able to get the same effect. Use your finger to smudge it in, and when you do that, you'll think, oh, that doesn't look good, and it doesn't, and it won't, because you need another coat. Then you have to go back over with the 230 again, putting it all over and rubbing that in, and then put the blue on top of that.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Now, you possibly could have to do it 3 times.
Wow.
It's a lot of work.
This is what you say when you say about pastel matte, is that, it takes a lot of color, which is great, but it takes a lot more work and pastel, and I suppose patience to get the desired effect.
And I've just said to you, didn't I, don't use a color shaper. However, there is an area you've got to use the color shaper. You've got no choice, and that is on the stick. You see where that stick is now. If you try to rub that with your finger, you're going to rub it all over the stick. So you're going to have a blue stick, and the blue stick's not going to work. So what you have to do there is get as close as you can. I use this side of my finger. You can't see it here, but just there. I use that area there, and I could get pretty close to an item like that. But I never touch it. I wouldn't do that, because I know what will happen if I did. So you have to use the color shaper then. That's the only area you've got to do it, and you just have to cope with it.
Amazing. Really, I'm pleased. Thanks for taking that close up, because I think is really good at explaining the action, or the kind of the result of the action. You get an idea of what you've been doing, and obviously you're filming this, so this is going to be a class on the website, so people will eventually be able to watch you do this picture and also copy it as well. Although I imagine this looks already to be a very advanced picture to do. It's definitely going to test people.
Well, the way I look at it, Steve, there was a picture going on today. I can't remember the lady's name. It went on to our site. The first one she's done, which was, I think it was the black and white dog. And when you look at that, and this is the first time of using pastel pencils, and she's produced that. Now, she's understandably and does say how delighted she is that she's been able to do that.
Mm.
Now, just imagine with experience where she's going to go and where all these other lovely artists that we've produced are going to go. We've got several examples of ones that have been with us for a little while, and they're really doing well. They're doing commissions now, and they're going on. People eventually will reach my level, and I'm no doubt that they'll exceed me. They'll go beyond me, because once you've got these techniques, I've never known a medium whereby you can keep improving. You know what I mean? You keep
Mm.
getting better and better. And the reason is, I think that there's so many techniques out there that we haven't even thought about. Look at that touching with a paintbrush idea with the color shaper. These things come along, and now people will find that as they practice that, they'll get better and better and better, and they'll
Mm.
work. Those pictures that I'm doing now, that picture particularly, and maybe the last few that I've done, people will be able to do them, and it won't be long before they do, once they really get to grips with the pastel pencil. So
Mm.
my job really is to try to keep ahead of them, you know.
Fantastic.
It would really please me so much when people actually do achieve those kind of results. So
Mm.
keep at it, keep going at it. And these little tips that I give you, that I pass on, no one taught me them. You know, they're things you learn yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Lovely. Great stuff. I mean, it's looking great already. It doesn't look an easy one. I'm pleased that we're able to discuss it and talk about it. Perhaps when this project comes out and people have listened to this, it might ease their sort of worry, just feeling like you've explained it and discussed it and had a heads up of the kind of complexities that people might find when they do this kind of picture. Lovely stuff. Well, we'll check in maybe next week, maybe in a couple of weeks' time, and see how you're getting on, and show a little bit more progress. Maybe if you take a picture for next week, even though we don't do a podcast, maybe we can put a picture up at least to show how you're progressing with it on our Facebook group. Or on our socials, so that people can see how you're doing. Yeah, I think that we'll probably be, if you see us next week, I'm going to have a very grumpy Mims in the other room. He's really ready for this baby to come. But for now, we'll leave it for maybe this week, maybe a couple of weeks. Thank you everyone for watching and listening. As always, I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley. Enjoy your
Enjoy
week.
your week.